we did last week. Today, we are going to look at the financial assets, money, financial transactions, and financial institutions. Financial assets, money, financial transactions, and financial institutions. Oh, sorry, the real estate people, are they here?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So for today, our objective include to learn about the channels through which funds flow between lenders and borrowers within the global system of money and capital market. This we discussed extensively last week, but for the sake of the real estate people, I think we have to spend more time there. Then also discover the nature and characteristics of financial assets, how they are created and how they are destroyed by decision makers within the financial system, and explore the critical roles played by money within the financial system and the linkages between money and inflation in prices of goods and services. Now, Ghana here, we are facing a lot of inflationary pressures. Goods and services are very expensive on the market. So you look at inflation and deflation, which of them is good for the economy? Is too much of it good, or we have to get a moderate of it? Then we also have to examine the important functions carried out by the financial intermediaries in lending and borrowing and in creating and destroying financial assets. So you look at the roles that the banks that they play in bringing the surplus unit and the deficit unit together. So we are trusting that God will give us the grace, the strength to go through the topic successfully. The financial system, as we said, is just a market, a collection of market institutions. So it tells you that the financial system is just a medium or a mechanism through which loanable funds reach borrowers. You know, we said that one of the main tasks or one of the main purposes of the financial system or the financial market is to bring scarce loanable funds from those who have it in excess to those who are in need of it, right? So it tells you that the financial market need not to have a physical location. It must just be a medium, and that medium must help through which loanable funds. When we talk of loanable funds, we mean credits. That is what loanable funds is. So anytime we hear loanable funds, we are talking about credit. We are talking about credit. So the financial system gives an avenue through which this credit, that is the loanable funds, reach borrowers. How does it reach borrowers? As we open accounts with the banks, as a financial institution or as a firm sells out a claim on the market and we decide to buy, we are supplying credit to that particular institution. We are supplying loanable funds to that particular institution. So if it is maybe a company like MTN that has floated shares on the market, as we buy those shares, then we are supplying funds directly to the borrower, which is what MTN. Some of us too, we open accounts and put the money there. Then the bank repackages those small money, give it out in the form of loans. That is what the financial system basically is about. So through the operations of the financial market, money is exchanged for a financial claim, as I said, in the form of stocks, maybe for MTN shares, for instance. Not too long ago, Ghana floated bonds on the market, and the bonds was not really patronized. And they attributed it to a whole lot of things. At that time, this gayism and those kind of LGBTQ was so heated in the country that people believed that because Ghana was speaking against it, that is why the international market didn't patronize the bond that we floated on the market. But when someone floats bonds, when an institution floats bonds, when a government floats bonds, it tells you that the government needs money. Therefore, they are selling the securities out there. Those who are interested and those who have money, can buy those securities, thereby transforming our savings into investment so that the economy can grow. So the more we patronize the financial asset, the more we patronize financial claim. How do we do it? We just buy it, then they give us just a certificate to represent it. Some of us, if you tell somebody that, oh, me, I have 100 million in my account, it's not a physical thing for everybody to see like a land or a car. Go and show it to me. So what shows that you have 100 million cedis in your account is a receipt that will tell me that, oh, yes, it's true. You have 100 cedis in your account. So as the financial system brings a medium through which loanable funds reach borrowers, the operations of the financial markets, money is exchanged for financial claims. And the financial claims can be in so many forms, but here we just listed on stocks, bonds, and we have other securities. That tells you that we have a lot of financial products on the market. What my banks will offer may be different from what your bankers will offer. And I opt to a particular financial services because I believe it meets my needs. That is why I am going in for that particular service. Now, how is a financial asset created? A financial asset is just a claim against the income or wealth of a business firm. Now, if MTN floats shares on the market and we go and buy some of MTN shares, what it means is that we have a claim over MTN's assets that when they pay dividend, profit, they need to also pay us some amount of money because we have patronized their product. When government issues treasury bill on the market and we patronize the treasury bill, it tells you that the government has issued a claim and we have a right over the income of government. That is why when you buy treasury bill, at the end of the period, they give you your principal and they also give you an interest to it. So if a firm issues a financial asset on the market and the firm's financial position is not too strong, it's not very well, at the end of the day, it will affect the cash flows that the individual is supposed to receive from the organization. So a financial asset is a claim that the income or wealth of a business firm, household, or unit of government represented usually by a certificate. So when you buy a treasury bill, what shows that you bought a treasury bill? It's the receipt that they'll give to you that shows that you bought a treasury bill. When I go into my account and I say that I have 100 million in my account, it is the printout that will show that, yes, I have 100 million in my account. Or maybe it is a computer record or other legal document that will show that, yes, indeed, you have this financial asset or you have this financial property. When it comes to car, when it comes to landed property or physical property or tangible properties, that one you can see with your eyes, you can feel with your eyes. But with financial assets, you cannot see with your eyes, you cannot feel with your eyes. It is only a certificate, it is only a piece of paper that represents that, yes, indeed, I have a claim in this company. And why do you have a claim in this company? I have a claim in this company because they issued a particular product on the market and I bought that financial product. So my money is with them. And at a particular point in time, when the investment period is up, I have to get my money and I also have to get my interest attached to it. Please, are you with me?
Yes, please.
So characteristics of financial assets. Financial assets are sought after because they promise a future returns, as I have said. There is no way one will put his money into a financial asset and thinks and believes that at the end of the maturity period, I'm going to get only my principal. No, we don't do that. Once I put the money down, I must get a return on the money that I have put down. And the return must compensate me for the time that I have put the money down. It must compensate me for time value of money. And it must also compensate me for all the unnecessary risks that I put on myself. That is why when somebody takes his or her money to a risky environment, the returns on that particular investment will be more than another person who takes his money to treasury bill or to a safety financial asset. So financial assets are really sought after in the whole world because they promise a future returns to their owners, and it also serves as a store of value. As you have bought the financial asset, because you are getting a return on it, the return that they quote, when I buy treasury bill and they quote a return of 15%, the 15% has two elements in it. It has the inflation element, and it also has the real returns. So if inflation increases, while the returns that they've quoted, the 15% remains constant, then it tells you that you are losing value on your investment. But if inflation reduces, then the real returns that you are getting on your money increases. So in a way not to lose value on our money, we decide to buy a financial asset, because if you put the money under your pillow, last 2 weeks, fuel was 8.2 something. Today, the price of fuel per liter is 9 point something, getting to 10 cedis. If you had invested in this small money, maybe if you have money, if you had invested the money into any interest yielding investment, at least you will preserve your money. But if you put the money under your pillow, then as time goes on, the value of the money depreciates. So financial asset helps us to store the value of our money by maintaining our purchasing power. And financial assets also do not depreciate like a physical goods. If you trade in tomatoes or perishable products, as time goes on, the product loses value. When you buy a car, you drive the car for a period of time. As time goes on, the car loses value. Even you go and buy a tear rubber car today, if you just go to DVL and register the car, the fact that you have registered the car, value has lost on the car. So physical asset depreciates, but with financial assets, they do not depreciate in value. Their form is irrelevant in determining the market value. Sometimes look at the 1 cedi or look at the currency that we hold. But it doesn't mean that the value is depreciated. Somebody can give you a 200 cedis that is very, very crumpled, very, very old. You look at the money, you see that this money is very dirty. But the fact that the money is dirty doesn't lose the market value of the 200 cedis. It is still 200 cedis. If somebody go and bring fresh 200 cedis notes from the bank, and I have a dirty 200 cedi note, the value is the same. And they have little or no value as a commodity. And their cost of transportation and storage is also very, very good. Somebody can carry 100 million or $100,000 on themselves. But if you go and use $100,000 to buy a house, can you be carrying the house wherever you go? So it makes durability and portability very, very easy when you buy a financial asset. A financial asset too can also be changed at any particular point in time and can also be substituted for any other assets. These are some of the characteristics of financial asset. What are some of the different kinds of financial assets? The basic type of financial asset that we have is money. That is currency. That is the basic of them. You know, in the olden days where we used to have barter system or the barter trade, there was no money. Then as time went on, there was the introduction of money into the system, which sees the barter trade system. So if you are looking for different types of financial assets, money is the basic of it all. And when you talk of money, we are talking about currency and checkable account, right? And currency and checkable account, the currency is the ones that we are holding in our pocket. And our checkable account is the current account that we have, because with current account, you can chance on it at any particular point in time. In a day, you can go into a current account, but you cannot do same with your savings account. If you do that with your savings account, it will attract some form of fees, but with current account, it doesn't. Then we also have equities. Equities represent ownership interest in a firm, and their claims against the firm's profit and against firm's proceeds from the sale of its asset. So MTN issues shares on the market. Then we decide to buy some of MTN shares. When you buy it, you become shareholders of the firm, and we have interest in the firm. We have claim against the firm's profit, that when the company declares profit, they have to also declare dividend to us. They have to also declare dividend to us as part of our the returns that we are getting from the proceeds in the organization, or as part of we purchasing the shares. We are entitled to dividend. We are entitled to a return. When the firm is winding up, when the firm is folding up, and they sell their asset after paying all their debt, if some of the money is left, we have a claim over it. They need to share to all of us so that everybody will have what equity share in the organization. So with equities, you can have common stocks and you can also have preferred stocks. With the common stockholders, we say that they have a residual claim. They are the real owners of the company. So if the company is not doing well, you don't expect the company to pay you dividend. With the preferred stock works like a hybrid. It has the characteristics of debt, and it also has the characteristics of equity. Now, in terms of characteristics of debt, preferred stocks pay a constant dividend. But with common stocks, the dividend that they pay fluctuates depending on the profit margin of the organization. But with preferred stock, it doesn't work like that. And with preferred stock, we have what we call cumulative preferred stock, and we have non-cumulative preferred stock. If the preferred stock that we have bought is a cumulative preferred stock, then at any point in time, the firm must pay dividend to the stockholders. So if the firm is not able to pay dividend for maybe 2-3 years, and after 3 years, they decide to pay dividend, they need to accumulate all the past dividend and pay before they pay the current dividend. That is a cumulative. But if it is a non-cumulative, and the firm decide that they don't have enough money, so for the past 3 years, they've not been paying dividend. As soon as they decide dividend, they need to pay the preferred stockholders first before they pay the common stock holders. Then we also have debt security. Debt security is like a loan, right? When a bank goes for a loan, when an institution goes for a loan, you become a creditor to the organization. And once you go in for a loan, you need to pay the loan on regular basis, depending on the type of agreements that you have with the bank. An institution can also issue debt security, like in the form of bonds on the market. When you issue bonds on the market, you have to also pay coupon to the bond holders on regular basis. Normally, coupons are paid on semi-annual basis. That is every 6 months, they pay interest to the bond holders. So if an institution issues a debt instrument like a bond on the market, then they need to honor their promise by paying the coupon or the interest on regular basis. And one thing that you must note is that debt holders have superior interest over equity holders, in that when a firm decides to settle its debtors, or when a firm decides to settle its stakeholders, they will settle the creditors first before they will settle the equity holders. That is why we say that equity holders are residual holders. They are residual holders. After everybody is settled in the organization, then they will settle the equity holders. Now, the instrument on the market can be negotiable or it can be non-negotiable. It is not all instruments that are negotiable. Negotiable means that you can pass it on to another person based on the agreement that you have with the person. So examples of debt securities, we have bonds, we have notes, account payable, we also have savings deposits. When you take the balance sheet of a bank, for instance, all deposits are liabilities and all loans are assets. That is why when you take a bank, if the bank has a lot of non-performing loans, the bank is in for trouble, because your non-performing loans are your assets. So if you are not able to recover your assets, then you have an issue. But whereas the deposit, for me, if I put my money at the bank, if I need my money, I'll come for my money. You cannot tell me that I shouldn't withdraw my money because you have a lot of non-performing loans. So when you look at the balance sheet of a bank, all deposits are part of their liabilities, and loans are their major assets. Then another type of financial asset that we have on the market are derivative instruments. Derivative instrument. The instrument itself do not have value. The instrument itself do not have value, but they have an underlying asset that is tied to the financial instrument. Now, since we are looking at financial assets, in terms of financial instruments, we can talk of maybe the dollar, we can talk of interest rate. But if you are looking at it in a broad sense, the underlying asset can be cocoa, it can be oil, it can be any product that you can think of. It can be an underlying asset. Now, the derivative market value is tied, as I said, or influenced by the value or return on the financial asset. And you have different types of derivative instruments on the market. As time goes on, we take derivative as a full topic and discuss it. So we will discuss the types of instruments on the derivative market. We have forwards, we have futures, we have options, and we have swaps. So these are the main instruments on the derivative market. So it's either you are buying forwards, it's either you are buying futures, it's either you are buying options, or you are buying swaps. These are the instruments on the market. And the underlying asset differs depending on what somebody is interested in. Now that the prices of fuel is like cocaine on the market, somebody can hedge against the price of fuel. So the fuel becomes the underlying asset. Somebody can also go into a commodity like gold, cotton, maize. All these can be underlying assets that you purchase in the derivative market. So these are the different types of financial assets that we have on the market. We have the currencies, we have the equities, we have the debt instruments, then we have the derivatives. How are financial assets created? How are financial assets created? To acquire asset, household and business firms, we use what our current income and accumulated savings have. So if I want to acquire a financial asset like treasury bill, it is out of my savings, it is out of my income that I'll go and buy a financial asset like treasury bill. I'll go and buy a financial asset like MTN shares on the market. I'll go and buy a financial asset like opening a fixed deposit account. In that sense, that is how a financial asset is created. And an economic agent may also raise funds by issuing financial liabilities or stock, provided that a buyer can be found. That is what we call external financing. Now, if a company like MTN needs money for expansion, but their internally generated funds, their current income, their accumulated savings is not enough, then MTN must find ways and means to create a financial asset on the market. How are they going to create the financial asset on the market? MTN may decide that let me issue shares on the market, or MTN may decide that I want to issue bonds on the market. Once the institution, the corporate institution decides to issue a financial instrument on the market, then a financial asset has been created. Now, the issue is when a financial asset is created, there must be a buyer who will patronize it. Until a buyer patronizes it, the creation is not possible. Are you with me? Hey, you people, when I ask you, you don't talk. You don't want some try and I know you.
Oh, madam.
Okay, now let's look at a typical household balance sheet and look at a firm balance sheet. Can you see my cursor?
Yes. Yes. Yes, madam.
Thank you. So this is the liability and the equity side. So liability and net wealth. Then this is our asset. That is for individual household. So our net wealth, which is our accumulated savings, what have we used it for? We have cash in hand. We bought furniture. We have clothes. We have automobiles. We have other assets. Now, for we to have a balanced balance sheet, our total liability and net wealth must be equal to our total assets. If it doesn't balance, then it means that some of the money has found itself in other places that we couldn't account for. But under normal circumstances, a balance sheet must balance. So that is the balance sheet for an individual or a household. Now, for a firm, we have the accumulated wealth to be 100,000. And this is what the firm has used its wealth to buy. They have inventories, they have machinery and equipment, they have building and other assets on the market. Now let's look at an instance whereby there is the purchase of equipment and issuance of a debt security. So initially, look at the first balance sheet. The household, your accumulated wealth was 20,000. Then the total asset was also 20,000. Now, here, look at the difference here. You see that accumulated wealth is still 20,000. The total asset is still 20,000. But look at this place. The cash, which initially was 13,000, is now 3,000. Have you noticed that? We have used some of the 13,000 to buy a financial asset, which is what? 10,000 cedis. Now, still, when we sum everything together, we are still having our accumulated net wealth and total assets to be what? 20,000. Are you with me?
Yes, please. Yes, madam.
Thank you. Now, when you look at that of the firm, that is a business firm, it was just net wealth, right? They didn't have liability. So it was just the accumulated savings. And accumulated savings in other way, the accounting people tell you that it is equity, right? So another name for it is equity. So we have their net wealth to be 100,000. And this is what they use 100,000 to do. And now they have created additional liability on the market. And that is a liability of what? 10,000 cedis. Now, this liability of 10,000 cedis that they raised on the market. So let's assume that they issued a bond instrument on the market. And me and you, the whole class, we contributed. And we had an amount of 10,000 cedis. And we bought this financial asset that has given the business firm a liability for them to pay us in future of 10,000 cedis. Please, do you understand? Now, with the 10,000 cedis, what did they use to buy? You know, inventories is already here. Then machinery and equipment was 25,000. Now, let's see what has happened to their equipment and machinery. They have increased it by a margin of what? 10,000. So the liability or the bonds that they issued on the market to raise an amount of 10,000, they used that 10,000 to buy additional machinery and equipment. So in that sense, as the liability have increased, their total assets have also increased. Please, are you following? Why? Because there was an issuance of a debt security. There was a creation of a financial asset. And as there was a creation of a financial asset, money has come into the coffers of the firm that issued the financial security. So as money has come to the coffers of the firm that issued the financial security, what did they use the money to do? They used the money to increase their quantity of machinery and equipment by buying additional 10,000 cedis to their 35,000. So now their total asset in the firm is 110, and their total liability and net worth is also 110 cedis. I believe I'm making sense.
Yes, you are.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Then this aspect too, the firm decided to issue stocks on the market. The other one was debt, and this is stock. It is the same preamble. or the same explanation that goes to it. So the cash of 13,000 was used to buy a financial asset, which is a stock of 10,000. So we sum up to what? 20,000. And with this company, the firm, here now they are not issuing liability again. So you see, it is not liability. Here it was what? Liability. See, because they issued a debt instrument on the market, so it was a liability, right? But here they issued stocks on the market, and stocks becomes what? Equity. So we will add the equity to the accumulated savings, making what? Their total net worth of what? 110. And still, the additional 10,000 was used to buy machinery and equipment. So this is how financial assets are created on the market. So let's look at financial assets and the financial system. The act of borrowing or issuing of new stocks simultaneously give rise to the creation of an equal volume of financial assets, as you have seen here. So once you increase the financial asset on the market, your volume of assets must also what? Increase. Now, assuming that the issuance of financial asset was 10,000 here, and the volume of asset that increase here was 9,000, then it means there is a shortfall of 1,000 cedis. Why is 1,000? Why is 1,000? Should we open a suspense account and put 1,000 cedis in it, or what? That is when controller and accountant general will come in. That no, we issued an asset of 10,000 on the market. It must correspond to the asset of which we bought. Now, if the asset that we bought is 9,000, then where is 1,000 cedis? So they need to go inside, look where the tower was. Is it in somebody's pocket? Where has 1,000 cedis gone to? Then we're now in somewhere over the. So simultaneously, when new stocks are issued, it gives rise to creation of an equal volume of financial assets. And all financial assets are recorded as a liability or claim on some other economic unit balance sheet. And that's the truth. When you issue stock on the market and I buy, I have a claim on that particular company. When you issue bonds on the market and I buy, I also have a claim on that particular company. Why? Because I have given my money to you, to the organization, that at the end of a particular period, you need to return my money to me, plus additional interest that I have to earn on it. So at the end of the day, the volume of financial asset creators for lenders must be equal to the volume of liabilities issued by borrowers. The volume of financial asset created for lenders must be equal to the volume of liabilities issued by borrowers. If there is a shortfall, then there is a problem on the market. So for the balance sheet of an economic unit, how does it work? We have our total asset, which is equal to our total liability plus our net worth. And here you can see it from the balance sheet here. See, our total net worth plus total liability is equated to our total asset of 20,000 here. The same applies to the business firm, 110 here. So it must balance. That is why we call it a balance sheet. And assets can be real asset or it can be financial asset. For an economy, you have the total financial asset must be equal to your total liability. And at the end of the day, total real asset must also be equal to our total net worth. Society increases its wealth only by saving. If you consume all your money, you can never increase your wealth. If you consume all your money, you can never increase your wealth. But if you receive maybe 1,000 cedis a month, you spend 800 and you save 200. You save. The more you are saving, the more you are accumulating wealth, which will translate into what? Investment. So society increases its wealth only by savings and increasing the quantity of its real asset. So for me, every month I can decide that I want to save 1,000 cedis. I want to save 1,000 cedis. So the more I save this 1,000 cedis, maybe after 5 months, I can go out and buy maybe a plot of land. It's not even a full land. I can get a quarter land or maybe half plot land. I have what? Increase my real asset. Or I can also decide to buy a financial asset in terms of treasury bill or in terms of any financial asset on the market. As well as I can also decide that I want to change the furniture in my house. I want to buy a big freezer. I want to buy air conditioning. All this, if you don't save, there is no way our real asset is going to increase. If we consume more than we put down, you will remain at a standstill. But if we invest, if we save and invest, then our real assets will increase and our standard of living will be better off. So society increases its wealth only by savings and increasing the quantity of its real assets. So for these assets, enable the economy to produce more goods and services in the future. So as businesses save, at a point in time, they will take this savings to go and do investment for expansion. As they are expanding, then they will be employing more people. You people will be completing school very soon. You'll be moving into the world. National service can accommodate all of you. But after that, what happens? Where you work, do they have the opportunity to retain? Is there an opportunity there to retain? If there is an opportunity there to retain, then it means that the firm is in for expansion. But if the firm doesn't have any form of expansion, probability of you being retained is very, very minimal, because if they retain you and they produce, who is going to buy those things? Sometimes even getting an office for you to sit becomes a challenge. So the financial system provides the essential channel necessary for the creation and exchange of financial assets between savers and borrowers, so that real assets can also be acquired. The more we save and we don't put the money under our pillows. Now, in money and capital market, when we talk of savings, our savings is not putting the money in our house. Our savings is taking the money to the financial system or to the financial sector to patronize a financial asset, so that those who are in need of funds can use that money for expansion. And we deposited our money or patronize a financial asset, we will also get a return from it. Now, what these economists say, Gully and Edward Shaw pointed out that each business firm, household, or unit of government active in the financial system must conform to this. Now, conforming to this means that you have to come into balance. That is what it means. That is why we call it a balance sheet. You have to have a balance system. Now, when you look at the R is our income and the E is our expenditure. So if we subtract our income and our expenditure, let's assume we get 0 here. It is equal. Then we have change in our financial assets and also change in our debt and equity holdings. When you also subtract, it must be what? Also amount to what? 0. Now, if it's 0 or this, the R must be bigger than the E, or the change in financial assets must be bigger than the change in D. In an instance or situation whereby you have the E being greater than R and the D being greater than the FA, you are in for trouble. That means that you are spending more than what your income can afford. It means you have moved into borrowing aspect. You have gone to borrow. That is what it means. In that sense, we classify you as a deficit spending unit. Now let's look at these systems, lending systems in the economy. Now look at the first one. We have the deficit budget unit. You see the expenditure is greater than the revenue, or that is the income that you are getting. And your percentage change in debt is also greater than the percentage change in the financial assets. Automatically it tells you that you are spending beyond what your pocket can afford. Now, the surplus budgets, these are very, very sensible for any economy to have, or for any individual to have. At any particular point in time, at least when you spend, you have to leave some. So the income is greater than the expenditure, and our change in our financial assets is also greater than our change in our debt. Now, in a worst case scenario, you need to have a balanced budget whereby your revenue is equal to your expenditure and your change in debt is also equal to your change in financial assets. That is in a worst case scenario. That is what you have to have. But at best, you must have a surplus budget or you must be a net lender of funds. But to be a net borrower of funds, it is not good. But if you are a net borrower of funds and you are using the funds as an income generation activity, then that one it is good because the money will be bringing in more money. That one you are using it for business. But if you are a household and you are consuming and your expenditure is more than your income, you are not being a rational human being. Now let's look at this lending and borrowing in the financial system. Look at the household. Household net acquisition of financial assets is $770.9, and net increase in liability over the same period is 912.6. That tells you that you are a deficit spending unit because what you acquired was less than what you spent. Now, the second one is non-financial business firms. Their net acquisition of financial assets was bigger than their net liability. And they have a positive figure here. So we'll classify them as the surplus budget. State and local government, they were able to raise only 70. They spent what? 141. So this is also a deficit budget. The same applies to federal government and also the international sector. No, the international sector has a positive budget, right? The net financial asset is 810, then the liability is 236. So that's the financial system in the US economy for you. Now, the global financial system permits business, household, and government to adjust their financial position from that of a net borrower to a net lender. Today, you might be a borrower. Tomorrow, you'll not be a borrower. That is how life is. It is not every day that an individual will be in debt. As for today, I may be in need of money to sort out things. Tomorrow, I might not be at the same position. So that is how life is. And that is what happens in the financial system. I may go to the bank to borrow, to go and buy a land. Tomorrow, I will not go to the bank to borrow it. I will rather put money there because my expenditure is lower than my income. Now,
Hello, madam. Please, if you can hear me, your voice is far away.
Hello? Yes, we can't hear you.
what is money? Every financial asset, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
All financial assets are valued in terms of money. Even when you are going to marry a woman, the bride price, we put monetary value on it. So in this world, everything is valued in terms of money. And the flow of funds between lenders and borrowers occur through the medium of money. The barter system is no more. So money is very, very important. And as I said, money in itself is what? A financial asset. We have different forms of money on the markets. So what are some of the definitions of money that we have? In economics, we have M1, M2, M2, M3. The M1 is the immediate, that is the most liquid form of money. And that one is the currencies, the checkable deposit. And as I say, when you talk of checkable deposit is current account. Current account, you can visit your current account as many times as you want without charges. But savings account is not like that. Normally, the banks, they give only 2 chances in a month for you to go into your savings account. Any additional entry into your savings account in the form of they will charge you a fee. But current account is not like that. So current account, your money is almost available like the way you have the currencies with you. Then you have the M2. The M2 is the current account plus your savings deposits. Any form of savings deposits that you have, and also mutual funds. Then we have the M, which is institutional money funds and certain managed liabilities of depositories in terms of lifetime deposit, repurchase agreements, and euro dollars. So as we are graduating from M1 to M2 to M3, then liquidity becomes a little bit difficult. With M1, it is very, very liquid. M2 is moderately liquid, and M3 is less liquid. That tells you that with M3, until the time is up, you cannot easily access the money. But with M1, at any particular point in time, you can access your money. So these are the definitions of money on the market. M1, M3. Okay, so this is also, we have checkable deposits and currencies. Then we have the M1 plus. So you have savings deposit, small time deposit, then the retail monetary fund. Then the M3 is M2 plus the euro currency and repos, institutional mutual funds. Then you also have lifetime deposit. The M3, normally it is institutions that goes into it. Individuals do not normally go into M3. Individuals or household will normally go into M2 and M1. Okay, now that we know what money is, what are some of the functions of money? This, you have learned it in micro and macro economics. When you were doing barter trade, money sells as a standard of value. Now everything is valued in terms of currency. Money sells as a medium of exchange. If you don't have money, there is nothing that you can buy on this continent or on this earth. Money sells as a store of value. Instead of going to buy a fixed asset, you may decide to store your wealth in the form of money and at least earn some level of returns on it. And money also functions as the
Cool.
If you disturb, I'll take you off. Money functions as the only perfectly liquid asset in the financial system. You cannot liquidate money again. Money is the last stop. So any financial asset that you buy, if you want to liquidate, when you liquidate, you are getting money. And money exhibits price stability. Now look at the way our city is on the market. If the city were to be a girl, I don't think that you will get a boyfriend to date. It's not attractive at all. Its stability is very, very bad. Its marketability is very, very bad. But still, that is the only currency that we have in the country. Therefore, that is why the government is trying as much as possible to stabilize the currency. Because if our currency doesn't become stable, it will get to a point in time that people wouldn't like to trade in the city again. Wherever you go, they'll quote in dollars. They will quote in dollars. They will quote in dollars because we have lost trust in the currency that we are spending. That is the city that we are spending. So it is the duty of the Monetary Policy Committee plus the government in power to exhibit price stability, to exhibit stability and confidence in the financial system that must translate in the currency that we are spending, that is the cedi, because money is readily marketable and also reversibility. right? So if these attributes are missing in our city, then it becomes so difficult. It will tend that people will now be holding foreign currency in terms of dollars and pounds rather than what? Holding cities. And as more people are rushing in for foreign currency because they believe that the city has lost its value, then it becomes a problem in the country because the prices of dollars will now be appreciating excessively. Why? Because everybody is chasing for the dollar to buy because the city has lost its value. So the government is trying as much as possible to bring price stability in the shortest possible time. Our president says that the economy will bounce back in no time. We are praying for him. Won't you say amen?
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. Oh.
And the value of money and other financial assets and inflation. You know, I always say that when you talk of savings is not putting the money under your pillow. Savings is going to the financial system and putting the money there. Now, if you put your money under your pillow, what happens to it that you lose value on it? The purchasing power will depreciate as a result of increase in inflation. And you know that inflation is what? Is a persistent rise in the price of what? General goods and services. Hey, let me ask you, have they increased the fuel prices again?
So yes, madam.
Wow.
It's now 10.6.
It's now what?
10.6 to 8.
From where to where? From where to where is 10.6?
From 9.99 to 10.6.
Hey, you are talking of fuel?
Yes.
Oh, are you sure?
Yes, madam. This morning I read my fuel right now.
Hey, then I should have bought some over the weekend, though.
Yes.
Wow.
It's now 10.684 at Shell.
You don't mean it?
Yeah, I mean it, right.
And our salary is the same, oh?
Yeah, it's same. High
So
taxes.
you see how we are losing value as the day goes by.
Yes,
that's
very,
the purchasing power we are talking about. Right.
Yes.
So, and even normal things, normal food on the market.
Now food is now increasing every 2 days. Very,
there are people who sit in trotro. When you see people that you know, then you start sleeping. Stop sleeping because now things have become expensive. Pay your trotro fees, especially the ladies. When they see the guys, then they take their eyes off so that the guys will pay for them. Now things are expensive. Please pay for your things.
No, we don't do that.
Oh, Stella.
You see now the value of the city. City need your body and come here. Say boy, it has an answer. So I buy my sure say baby abepe.
I can see.
Because the purchasing power of our money has really gone down. The government at the beginning of the year said is increasing salaries by 7%. And already the taxes that he has introduced is more than the 7%. Now the increase in the fuel and those food prices had not even come here too. So assuming that we have increased the salary, the basic salary by 7%, and now look at the increase in goods and services on the market, what happens to your purchasing power? It has gone down. So when you sleep and you pray, please pray for this country because all is not well with Ghana. My name is NDC for no more MPP for Akwa so said but we are trusting God. Now Baumia doesn't even talk again. Is he in the country?
I'm sure it's a country.
The city has exposed Baumia.
You arrested.
He's arrested the city. He's somewhere arrested the city. Oh, this man. No, he doesn't talk again. And he also wants to be president too. Anyway, So inflation lowers the value of the purchasing power of our money, and we are really experiencing it in this country. Now, the opposite of inflation is deflation. With deflation, prices of goods and services rather decreases. It declines on the market. Now, let me ask you, in an economy, if you are asked to choose between inflation and deflation, which one do you think will benefit the economy and why? Yes, or raise up your hands and let me call you.
Madam, inflation, but mild inflation.
Oh, who is talking?
Victoria.
I'm Victoria.
Victoria, you think which one will help?
I was saying inflation, but mild inflation.
Mild inflation, explain.
So inflation refers to the rise in the general price level of goods and services, but we have hyperinflation, hyper or galloping inflation, where
Like what you're
the
experiencing now.
yes, please. But the mild one is where the prices will go up and be stable for a while. And with this, the mild inflation, there are some benefits associated, and the
Okay,
paramount one is
tell me some of the benefits.
the paramount one is economic boom.
Okay. Do you agree with what you
With
said?
Yes.
Why won't you say yes? Because one person mukasa. Now, what you said is very, very true. If it comes to inflation and deflation, then a moderate inflation is good because inflation enhances production of goods and services. When there is deflation, oh, it is just no good. Deflation leads to what? Prices of goods and services being lowered on the market. Now, if you are a producer and prices of goods and services are not expensive, they keep declining. Will you produce? Hello, will you produce?
no, madam.
No.
You will not produce. So deflation leads to lower production levels, right? Which in turn also leads to lower wages. Because if you have employed people and they are working for you, you are producing, people are not buying. At the end of the day, what are the workers doing in the organization? It can even lead to redundancy. Because when you produce, people are not buying. So it can lead to lower wages, which also leads to lower demand by businesses and consumers because consumers are not buying. Now, normally you see reduce to clear. Then they put there reduce to clear 60% are off. Then they'll reduce it, you come and buy. And you normally I use the ladies as an example. At this stage, you are in your prime stage, inflation stage. So you don't respect the guys. When the guys come to you, oh, you don't have money, you hit the age of 30, 32, 35, then deflation has set in. Now, at a point in time, you do reduce and clear anything in trousers, then you are going in for. So in your prime stage, as you are bluffing small, pray that when the good ones come, you will see it and settle with them. The ladies, do you hear?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
we have.
But you see how the guys with the moon is cow.
I
When you move school now, after 5 years, you can't buy an amount. You see how the moon. Hey, the guys, I hope you didn't hear.
Yes, we didn't hear.
we did
Thank
it.
you. Okay, so some of the measures that we use to measure inflation, we have CPI. So if any of you are doing maybe what do you call it? Project work, and you are looking at macro indicators, and inflation is one of the macro indicators. One of the indexes or proxies that you can use to measure inflation is what you have here: consumer price index, producer price index. Then you have the GDP deflator index. They are all proxies for using to measure inflation on the market. Now let's look at an instance, right? Suppose the US consumer price index rises from 100 to 125, over a 5-year period, what will be the cost of living index now? Now, 5 years ago, it was 100. Now, today, it is 125. To measure a change in anything, it is the current minus the previous over the previous. So this tells you that the cost of living has gone up by a margin of 25%. Now, when you bring it to per dollar, the dollar has depreciated to what? 0.8 cents. So if you know the CD, you can put the CD there and measure how the CD has depreciated over, I think even just this month of March, fuel prices. At the beginning of March, for me, I don't take records of it. But at the beginning of March, if you know, let's put the price of fuel per liter here. Then today, the 10 point something, let's put it there and do the calculations and see what you get. You know the margin at which fuel prices has increased on the market. And that will translate into how the cedi has also been performing against the major currencies. Things are not too well. As I always pray, let's pray for the country. Things will be better. Evolution of the financial transaction system. Evolution of the financial system. The financial system, last week we talked about the dynamics of the financial market. The financial market is not static. It changes. As time goes on, new things come onto the market. And as new things are coming onto the market, new risks is also being developed on the market. So the market is not static. The market changes with respect to time. And as the market is changing with respect to time, the demand from the public also changes with respect to time. The development of technology also brings in changes, and as well as laws and regulations that governs the changes. Now, initially, mobile money wasn't so patronized in this country. But now look at the way mobile money is really being patronized in the country, that even the government wants to even tax it because they have seen that it is a low-hanging fruit and they want to plug it without much effort. Initially, it wasn't like that. MTN brought it. Now all the other telecoms are into it. Now I can even transfer money from my bank account to my Momo account. You can use your Momo to pay for any services. If you are buying ECG credit, you can use your Momo to buy it if only you have the app. That tells you how the financial system has evolved over time. And also the demand from the public has also led to the development of new technologies on the market. And as new technologies are coming on the market, so there must be rules and regulations that governs those activities. And yes, sir, people will connect and take advantage in the system. So over time, the ways of carrying out financial transactions have evolved into a lot of complexity and issues. As I said, I can sit here and transfer money from my account to any account without going to the bank. Or even with my bank, for instance, when you go to the ATM, when you go to the bank, you want to deposit money in your account. You need not necessarily go to the banking hall to go and queue. There is an avenue at the ATM side. So you can go to the ATM side, deposit your cash in your account through the ATM, then off you go. No queues, right? So it tells you how the financial system has been changing over a period of time. And the transfer of funds from savers to borrowers can also be accomplished in at least 3 different ways. So if I am transferring money from my side to another person, we have 3 ways that we do it. We have what we call the direct, semi-direct, and indirect. We have direct, semi-direct, and indirect. When you talk of direct savings, what do we mean? Direct, I said direct finance. Direct finance is direct lending, give rise to direct claims against borrowers. Now look at this. You see the surplus spending unit people are here. Those are the lenders. So here we classify it as me and you, right? Because all of us have an account and money is in the account. So we form part of the surplus spending unit, that is the lenders. Then we have the borrowers here, the deficit spending unit. You see in the middle here, there is no intermediary. Do you agree?
Yes, madam.
Thank you. So any form of financial asset can be transferred right from the lender to the borrower. Now let me give you the basic form of it. When Vic comes to me that, oh, madam, Vic, I beg, with my example, don't practicalize it. Don't come because I don't have. Vic comes to me and said that, madam, please, I want 5,000 cedis to go and do some investment. Now, Vic is here. Vic is a borrower here, and I am here. Now, if I give the money to Vic, you see there is no intermediary here. So it is a direct lending that I've given to Vic. It is very, very simple, but it is very risky. Very, very risky. Now, what shows that Vic can pay the money back? What did I use to assess Vic? Did I use her beauty to assess it? Did I use her voice to assess it? Did I use her innocent face to assess that she will pay? There was a time that one student came to me that, oh, madam, that I was teaching them in level 300. Madam, please, I want my school fees is up. Time to pay my school fees is up, and he doesn't have money, a whole lot of things. He's going to get money in a week's time or something like that. So he needs money to register, else he cannot write the exam. This is about 8 years ago. And he took 2.5 from me. Up to today, he didn't pay. That was a direct financing. And it is very, very risky. It's the same way that when a company issues shares, bonds, any stocks on any financial security on the market, directly to the lenders. So, directly to the lenders, it poses what? A threat, because the probability that the financial institution can fail is very, very high. Look at the way Nan One was selling, is it gold, whatever. And he was selling it directly to the lenders. Now, there was no intermediary between Nan One and those who were purchasing the gold, whatever. So when Nan One collapsed, why are you going to get him? So that is a riskiness in the direct lending. Very, very risky, because you are giving the money directly to the borrower. So if the borrower is not able to pay, there is no intermediary that will speak for you. Then we have the semi-direct finance. So with that one, you see the betweener here. The betweener here is a security broker, a dealer and investment banker, like Data Bank. So MTN wants to issue shares on the market. MTN didn't do it directly on the market, but MTN decided to look for investment bankers to help it sell its asset on the market. So as a lender or as an individual, when I'm interested in MTN shares, I go to the security broker here. I go to the investment banker here, which is Data Bank. I go there to go and buy. Then Data Bank gives the money back to what? To the lenders, to the borrowers, which is MTN. Please, do you understand? So the flow of loans of spending moves from the surplus unit to the security bankers here or investment bankers here. Then the investment bankers take the proceeds to MTN here. So at the end of the day, the direct claims comes from the borrower to the security dealer, then to the person who patronized the financial assets on the market. That one is also risky, and matching is still required. And there is also lower search cost. This is the normal one that we see on the market. That is the indirect finance. Now, I use Vicky as an example. Vicky comes to me that, oh, madam, can you please lend me 5,000 cedis? Then I tell Vicky that, Vicky, I don't have money, but I save at Barclays Bank, now ABSA. And I have heard that ABSA is giving out loans. So please, you can go to ABSA and go and get loans from ABSA. The risks that I would have bear in giving the money to Vicky I have transferred that risk to what? To the financial institution by opening an account with ABSA, putting my money at ABSA. Now, ABSA will repackage the money in the form of loans, then give it to what? Vicky here. At the end of the day, when Vicky is coming to pay back, Vicky will pay to ABSA. Then when I need my money, I go for it from ABSA. Please, you understand? The risk involved is very, very low. Because when I put my money at ABSA Bank, I didn't tell ABSA to give the money to Vicky. So if Vicky is not being able to pay back the loan and the principal, for me, I don't care. All that I know is that I have money in my account, and today I need money and I'm going for money. That is what the indirect financing is all about. So you have there the secondary security indirect claims against ultimate borrowers issued by financial intermediaries in the form of deposits. So the example that I gave was what? A deposit example that I have opened an account with what? With Barclays Bank or ABSA. So Vicky can go to Barclays Bank to go and take a loan. Or I can buy an insurance policy, retirement savings account with any bank. Then the banks, this money that the banks have received, they don't put it there just like that. They repackage it and give it out to borrowers in the form of loans. My people, are you there?
Yes, please.
Yes, madam. Yes, please.
Okay, for this one, let me skip it. It's not of importance. Okay, so we have different types of financial institutions on the market. We have the depository institution, contractual institutions, then we also have investment institutions. The depository institutions are the banks, are the savings and loans, are the savings banks, the credit union. They take on the normal deposits, right? That the account will open with them, put money in there. That is a normal depository institution. Then the contractual institutions are the insurance companies and the pension funds. So that tells you that those one, it is a contract. Until you meet some criteria, there is no way you can enjoy benefits from that contractual institution. If it is a pension fund, and in Ghana here, SNAIT, for instance, you have to contribute for a period. If you don't contribute for that particular period, there is no way that you enjoy SNAIT when you go on pension. And they said that you need to contribute for a period of 15 years. After 15 years, you can decide to go on pension. When you go on pension, they will be providing you your pension allowance. Insurance, depending on the type of policy that you buy. If it is an auto insurance, until you incur a loss, there is no way the insurance company will come and say that you bought an insurance package, so come for the money. We don't do that. That one is a contractual agreement, and it serves or protects the holder against unforeseen circumstances. Then we have investment institutions like the Data Bank, the Gold Coast Securities, which is no more the Melbourne Brokerage. Those are investment institutions. They sell shares to the public and invest the proceeds in stocks, bonds, and other assets. So when you go to Data Bank, for instance, they have the M fund, they have the B fund, then they have EPAC, right? So they sell mutual funds, money market funds, real estate investment trust. And I'm happy we have real estate people here. Now, we want to form a portfolio. We know the types of financial institutions on the market. We know that we have the contractual one, the depository one, then the investment ones. Now, we want to do investment. And doing investment, we don't only want to invest in one security. We want to invest in several securities. When you invest in several securities, when you put everything together, we call it a portfolio of securities. So we want to form a portfolio. In forming a portfolio, what informs our decision as to put this asset in the portfolio or not to add this asset to our portfolio? One of the main things that we look out for when you are doing investment is risks and returns. Normally, people look at the returns, neglecting the risk aspect. But for every investment, there is a risk to it, as well as there is a return to it. Those who went to put their money at NAN1 at 10% per month, they were just looking at the 10% per month. They were not thinking that one day, the firm can be in trouble and they can lose all their money. So for any investment that you go into, for every decision that you take, the things that you have to look out for, apart from your objective, is the risks and the returns attached to that securities that you intend to invest your money into. Then the cost, volatility, and marketability or maturity of the incoming funds. It's also of importance. When you take my father, who is about 80 years old, and you tell my father to go and buy shares, that will or financial security that will mature in 10 years, the man will die without enjoying his fruit of his labor. So when you are making an investment, you have to look at the cost of it. Young people, we can go into risky investment because we are young and we believe that even if it fails, we have the energy to do more to recover. But other people, no, you don't ask other people to go into risky investment like that. The riskiness, volatility, and maturity of incoming funds. When does the instrument mature? Is the instrument going to provide regular sources of funds to the holder, or is going to give funds once a while to the holder? All these things, when you are forming a portfolio, you need to think about it. Then hedging principle, the approximate matching of maturity of financial asset held with liabilities taken on. And this one normally is for those who are in the financial sectors. Last time I was teaching people and I said that, the banks, if you take a loan and you decide that you want to pay the loan earlier than its time, you pay a penalty for paying early because they have matched their maturities against their incomes. So if you say that you are going to pay earlier than before, you are giving them unnecessary pressure. So as a portfolio manager, you need to know you need to know the hedging principle so that you can match the maturity of your financial asset as against the liabilities that you have taken. The liabilities that you took on, what did you invested in? Did you invested into an income generating asset? If you did invested into an income generating asset, then how is the income going to come so that you use the income to pay off the liabilities that you have taken? You need to do all those analysis before you decide to put those kind of assets in your portfolio. Then also the size of the individual financial institution. Larger financial institutions tend to have greater diversification in their sources and uses of funds and economies of scale, and it is true. When you take commercial banks, for instance, Ghana Commercial Bank is a very big institution. So the probability that Ghana Commercial Bank is well diversified than NIB or any savings and loans is very, very high. And the more diversified you are, the more your sources of income too is. And therefore, you can also enjoy economies of scale. And the last thing is regulation and competition. For every institution, there are laws and regulations that governs it. So when you're forming your portfolio, you need to look out for the rules and regulations that governs the particular asset and the competition in that particular area. So these are some of the, please, this is put it in your mind, the portfolio decisions, the things you have to take into consideration when you are forming a portfolio. They are formed. Now, we talked about intermediation. And intermediation was here. Hello, that is a evolution of the financial transaction. We talked about where we have no intermediaries, we have the direct financing, then we have the semi-direct, then we have the financial intermediation, whereby the banks plays a key role. Now we are going to look at a situation whereby we have this intermediation. Now, when you talk of this intermediation, it is a process of cutting out the financial intermediary in a transaction. So here, there was a financial intermediary here. So if we decide to cut off the financial intermediary from the transaction, what it means is that we are doing what we call disintermediation of funds. Disintermediation of funds. Okay, so now you see here that the financial intermediaries, have been cut off. And now it is a direct relationship between the surplus spending unit and the deficit spending unit. We have taken the financial intermediaries out. So when I take my money out from Absa Bank and MTN is floating shares on the market, I walk directly to MTN to go and buy. That tells you that I have done what you call disintermediation, because I have withdrawn the money from the financial system and I have gone to MTN, which is the ultimate borrower, and I've given the money to MTN. I go and withdraw my money from the bank, then I give it to Vicky because Vicky says she needs a loan of 5,000 cedis. I have taken out the financial intermediaries, then I have become the ultimate lender to what? To Vicky. So that is what this intermediation is about. So some new forms of this intermediation have appeared in recent years. Initiation by financial intermediaries. Some banks sold off some of their loans because of difficulties in raising them. That one, most of the banks, they do. We have institutions who are in loans recovery. So when the bank sees that their bad debt is too much for them, then they sell off the loans to those institutions, and those institutions will now go and chase the borrowers for the money. Then initiation by borrowing customers, like the way Vicky will be coming to borrow money from me, or MTN will be borrowing money directly from the open market. So if we have money, we move directly to MTN to go and buy shares from MTN. So borrowing customers learn how to raise funds directly from the open market rather than using an intermediary. The last thing that we'll discuss is bank-dominated and security-dominated economy. Which one is the best? Normally, in a low-developed environment like Ghana or in the third world countries, you see that the banks plays a superior role in terms of financial services. So anybody, any company, any corporate organization, any institution, any household that needs money, they don't normally go to the open market to go and raise funds, but they rather go to the bank to go and borrow. So in our part of the world, you see that the cost of credit is even so high on the market that sometimes small businesses cannot even borrow. And as they cannot even borrow from the market, they can also not also go to the security market to go and borrow there. But when you go to the developed world, the financial market, the banks plays a lower role as compared to the security market. So in our part of the world, in the third world country, in the lesser developed environment, the banks play a very key role in what? Supplying of credit and also attracting of savings. Whereas in the developed environment, the security market plays a key role in terms of raising money or in terms of liaising surplus units to deficit spending units. So this, I think that's the last thing that I will talk about, and we are done. So the more mature systems today are becoming security-dominated financial systems, in which traditional intermediaries play a lesser role. And the traditional intermediaries are the banks, and a growing number of borrowers sell securities to the public and raise the funds they need themselves rather than going through the traditional intermediaries. So we are praying that one day Ghana will get to a situation whereby the banks will play a lesser role and the security market will dominate in terms of raising funds on the financial market. So today, what have we done? We've talked about lending and borrowing in the financial system. We've talked about money as a financial asset, what money is. We've discussed the functions of money. We've also talked about financial assets and inflation. We've talked about evolution of the financial transactions in terms of direct financing, semi-direct, then indirect. Then we discussed different types of financial institution, depository institution, contractual institution. Then you have the investment ones. Then the factors to consider when you are forming a portfolio. Then the last thing we talked about was bank-dominated versus security-dominated financial system. So we have come to the end of today's class. Any question? You don't have any question? Thank you. So